So, my name is John Williams. I'm a casting director, and today in the room we're sitting down with William Tyler Wiseman. You like to go by Tyler, though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He is the writer-director behind the indie drama Moonwater. William's journey into filmmaking is anything but conventional. Growing up in rural Pennsylvania, Hollywood felt like a distant dream. His first love was theater, and after studying acting, he moved to Los Angeles to chase that dream, but it didn't take long for him to realize that his true passion was storytelling, not in front of the camera, but behind it. With little experience but an unstoppable drive, Williams set out to tell a deeply personal story about the blue-collar community that raised him, a place where survival depends on the land, hard work, and the people around you. That vision became his feature film debut, Moonwater, a gripping drama about family legacy and redemption. After premiering at Dances with the Films in New York City, Moonwater is now making its way through the festival circuit, gaining well-deserved attention for its raw, heartfelt storytelling. We also have the incredibly versatile Michael Joplin, an actor, voice artist, and puppeteer, and DJ, I just learned, who has carved out a unique space in the entertainment world. For All Mankind, Private Property, and Stalker, but his latest role as Tom in Moonwater, where he plays Peter's brother, a reclusive alcoholic who revives his late father's abandoned moonshine still, setting the stage for a powerful story of legacy and redemption. Beyond the screen, Michael's voice worked in Red vs. Blue and puppeteering talents on Netflix Julia's Green Room, showcasing his incredible range. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Let's. And that was all factual, I hope, because we pulled it from the internet. So hopefully that was all factual.
Well, I hate to break it to you, this puppeteering gig that you're talking about, I have no idea what that
I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
that's a great feather in my cap, and I have done a little bit of puppeteering in my day, mostly with theatrical productions in Austin. But this thing on Netflix, I don't.
That's amazing. I was like, he's a puppeteer. That's fucking rad. I didn't know he wasn't. I didn't know. Well, maybe me and you can go take puppeteering classes.
Yeah.
Why not? So Tyler, let's start with you. You grew up in Pennsylvania, and that in rural Pennsylvania, which I've been. And like, what were you like? I want to be in movies, or what? How'd you get inspired?
Yeah, yeah. Rural Pennsylvania, it's kind of a silly story how I like to tell it. I always loved movies. I thought like it's a connection to like a larger world. You know, many of the times you're stuck in this like small world and you know there's bigger ideas and your exposure to them in like a larger world is movies. Um, and so I was interested in that. And I tried acting in elementary school and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. I wanna do this." And so I got involved with acting in, like, theater because that's the only place you can really do it in a small town, and fell in love with the process of, like, character and character study and stories, but I thought, like, you know, every nobody can write, like, you have to be dead to be a writer. Like, I legitimately had this emotional feeling like, all the great writers are dead, so you have to be dead to be a writer.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was, like, possible. And
And an alcoholic, right? You had to be an
right.
alcoholic.
Which if I could do that, I can't die and then right, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you have to be a dead alcoholic. So, I kept doing theater and people were like, "You know, you're pretty good at this, kid, and you gotta look. You should go for it." And I listened to him. So I went for
But
it, studied
were you do
theater.
like in a small town though? Like I know where I'm from, it was like musicals or like it was just all like silly classics. Or were you doing like getting like your hands on good plays or?
I was I did it mostly in the summer, and I would go to, like, camps and
Mhm.
stuff to, like, go do it with, like, some serious people in, like, these theater camps. Like, I was, like, at going to this camp where there were kids who were on Broadway, and then, like, me from, like, you know, middle of nowhere town, and super inspired, and then I would go home, and they all be like, "You do theater?" I'd be like, Yeah, yeah, I do that too." But then I was, like, on the football team and stuff, so it was a
You had to
confusing
combat. Yeah,
upbringing.
you had to combat getting beat up somehow. So I understand.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, so then I studied theater, came out here, and I was like I tried to act, and I kinda realized meanwhile, my brother was trying to, like, make movies, and I was helping him figuring I'll act in them, and we'll put them together, and I kinda realized I enjoyed putting them together more than, like, I enjoyed acting in them. It kinda made me feel, like, not great about myself, and so for my own personal reasons, and so then I, started writing some of them, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is, like, way more along the lines of, like, what I wanted to do." As Tarantino said it, "I don't wanna be in your stupid movie, I wanna be in my stupid movie."
And so what
And
was
I
it
was like, "Okay,"
what
so I
was
put
it
it
ab
together.
what was it about that process that you found to be so much more enjoyable, that you could have control or that you weren't dependent on other people? Because, like, Michael and me, my job, like, we're dependent on so many other people to make decisions so we can work.
Yeah, I think it kinda came down to that, like, so much of the time I would feel like I was at the behest of someone else and, like, doing what they wanted me to do, and I felt like I had, like, stories in me that I really wanted to get out, but I didn't like, I was waiting for someone else to, like, let them out, and I realized I could just put them down, and then there are so many talented people like Michael in, like, Los Angeles, phenomenally talented actor, but everybody's, like, waiting for, like, the project, and a lot of people I know, they're they just need someone to be like, "Hey, like, let's go. We're all on board on this project, and you're in or you're out." And some people, they're scared and they wish-wash and they get out. And the people who said, "I'm in," they were in and we did it.
So,
And we just kept rolling with it.
yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that too, right? Because we'll get into a little bit more of the difficulties of what it takes to make a film like this, but like,
Yeah.
Michael, you can probably relate to this. It's like you're getting, as you're getting role number 5, cop number 5, and like you never get to showcase your talent unless you meet someone who's got the balls basically to be like, look, I'm gonna make a movie.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure meeting people who are actually about it. Yeah, it's either like you said, getting tiny roles or commercials or something like that, or not getting many auditions at all, in between, and you get kind of trapped in the work grind, just trying to pay the rent and all that. But yeah, very fortunate to have met people like Tyler here and some other friends that I have here in LA who are actually producing their own work and writing their own stories. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what I found too when I was in LA with the theater. Kind of was saved me because at least you could do work. You could actually do really
Yeah.
really great work.
Yeah, just being in an acting class out here and just being able to practice stuff and work on really good plays with people is also just an amazing, break from the grind and reminding yourself like, "Oh, hell yeah, I'm really good. I'm really good." Like I may not be getting the auditions I want or enough auditions right now or the industry's, trying to come back and doing all this stuff, but wow, it's great. It's great to get in a space where you can, do some work with people and who are excited.
You also lose this sort of like vision because you need to make money and you want to make money and you want to get a career, but it's like you lose focus on the work and what really and it seems like Tyler that you kind of felt this where it's like, no, this isn't fulfilling my soul. Like I need to get and fulfill my soul. And you guys making this movie, which is so great, and the people that we're talking to a lot is that like you're making something and you're not necessarily, of course you want people to see it and to be good, but it's like you're making a piece of art. You're making a cinema, you're making a film, and it's like to have that opportunity and do that is just like people don't understand that's such a huge accomplishment, just to get anything made and done is just a huge fucking accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt. And until you've done it, and it's really easy to be judgmental until you've done it. I've always
Oh,
noticed
yeah.
that. Any, whether it's making a movie or making an album or anything like that, like, people can say what they want, but until you've done it, like, okay,
No one has any idea
Yeah.
how much work it is.
Yeah.
yeah, it's nuts.
It's been a really humbling process. Like, I used to be like, when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, that movie, like, sucked," or whatever. Now that I've done it, I'm just like, "Oh, the amount of work that they clearly put into making this good." Like, I have so much respect for anybody who, like, does it.
For anybody, yeah, any film, I'm like, dude, you did it. You made a film. It's amazing. I was
Yeah.
we were doing a film in Waco, and like one of the kids on it was the Reverend just came out, and he was like, he was like, it's okay, and I was like, dude, they defied all. That's and I'm like, and you're saying like, "Meh, it's okay." Like, what do you think they're gonna think of this movie, dude? Like like
Yeah.
like Leo, I mean, they like only shot for an hour every day in the coldest weather, and you're like, it's okay. And
Nah.
I was like, "Fuck
Yeah.
you,
Right.
man." Um,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
so the I wanted to know because I deal with recovery and I deal with alcoholism and it's been a part of my whole world too, which I want to say congratulations. I thought you guys really nailed what that struggle is like. Is that something,
Thank
Tyler,
you.
that you had direct relation with, or like where did the idea come from?
Um, I didn't my wife's family has, some alcoholism struggles, and so she really helped me, like, hone in on that, but I have my own sort of relationship to certain things in my life that I feel like I think we all have these behaviors that we can't really sometimes understand ourselves, and I really try to hone in on that, like, there are certain things, um, for myself, honestly, I'm kinda like, cagey about how I, like, talk about it, but the movie for me in many ways was a metaphor for myself because I treated it the way I look at movie making and, like, the whole process, like, I continually do that process, and I'm so utterly dedicated to that process, and sometimes I don't know why, and sometimes it really drags me and the people around me down the way this character does, um, but I'm doing it in, like, in search of something, and I try to explore that sort of push and pull of, like, the reasons you explore something that's part of your identity as a way to sort of find my way into that addiction, you know, and I thought it was a really powerful way to explore how we all have those sorts of qualities and make it as, you know, what do I say, like, as visceral as possible, as, you know, how you take something and make it as solid as possible, and I wanted to really do justice to, that topic because also, on top of all that, I being from a small town, I know a lot of people, like, I graduated with, like, 60 kids, and I know probably, like, between 8 and 12 in my high school that are, like, already dead, and that's after, like, not that long. You do the math. There's so much addiction that I saw, that I was around, and that, like, it's just a part of the community that I felt like needed to be dealt with, not in a way that was, like, sensitive
Mhm.
and, empathetic, and not like, "Isn't this evil?" and, like, "Look how horrific it is." It is, and it's bad, but
Humanizing it. I mean, you
yeah,
human, yeah.
it stems out of a place of, vulnerability and need to be witnessed and seen, and, like, how do we do that? And there's a reason people fall into that, and it's forever gonna be a part of them the way I think it's forever gonna be a part of this character, um, and how do we incorporate that and learn what we can from it without letting it destroy us?
Michael, when did you come into the process? Did or how did you guys meet? Was there a casting, or did you guys know each other?
Um, no, actually, we met through another friend, Chase. So I assume I was in it, I guess not from the beginning, but I guess from when you decided to make a short. We made a short first, and my buddy Chase Joliet was played the lead in the short, and he recommended me to Tyler, and then so we shot that out in like the hills out in San Diego, and that was a really fun time and a great shoot. And then yeah, so then it came around to doing the feature, and I think Chase had some conflicts, so we had to move ahead with another actor, and he's fantastic. But yeah, so I pretty much I think I've been there since the beginning. I mean, I didn't I didn't help you write it, but you know,
So, was Matthew in the short too, or did Matthew come on just for the
came on for the feature.
feature? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, and then you guys shot in rural Pennsylvania. You guys went out there?
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
We
so
shipped them all out. It was my family's farm, and the cabin was like, these policemen who live in Philly, they only use the cabin, like, you know, 2 weeks out of the year maybe, and so I was like I knew we could be like, "Hey, can we just use the cabin?" And the policeman would be like, "Sure, we're not using it." So, but
so any Any experience with moonshine, or where did that? Because it was such a cool centerpiece to use around the brothers and the father, and that be, it was such a, and it was, for me, I was like, oh yeah, I could see them doing that. Like, I could see that being a thing. Like, that just seemed like such a it was a cool idea, but it just seemed like either you had some experience with it, or it was just like,
Yeah. Um, Honestly, no, but I've been so surprised at the amount of people. I swear to God, 70% of everybody I've talked to has a moonshine story, and I'm like, "What?
Wow.
This is awesome."
Yeah, because
Um,
I didn't know anything about
yeah,
it until we did this, and then
no,
I thought,
no,
like, you were an expert, like, the fact
no,
that you made it, you know?
I did a lot of research, but I was really into, I was really into whiskey at the time, and I was looking into the process, and I was thinking about, like, what could I film at my parents' house? And it kinda struck me that, like, the process of distillation was, like, a process of, like, purification and, like, finding its, like, the purest essence of something, and the character's trying to find his identity, and it just kinda clicked. I was like, "That could work," and I thought as well, they say, "Write what you know," and I know small town people, and I'm from a small town, and I thought that the moonshining is such an icon of, like, American culture, and, like, distinctly American culture because it was brought on by prohibition, and it could serve as such a great centerpiece about, traditions that are passed on in this American culture, and, like, have a symbolism for the search for one's own identity in relationship to, inheritance.
and the purity too. That's interesting. I didn't even put that together. So it's another interesting layer. I think also too, you grow up thinking moonshine, Appalachian Mountains, and red, just super. So it was cool to see it in that geographical area and with people that weren't playing. Because I often have a hard time when people want us to do Southern films, or they want everyone to be dumb hicks, and you're like, no, man,
Yep.
they're some of the smartest people you met. So I thought that was cool. So with you, I mean, were you any film experience, or like were you working on sets, or I mean, that's some ballsy shit, man, to be like, I'm gonna go make a film.
I, I made a short film of the movie first.
Yeah.
That's about it. What
I love
happened was
it, man.
I was like I said, I was out here working as an actor, and like I said, and I was working with my brother, just like putting together these like rinky dink stuff. And I kind of started writing this as like a way, like almost as a something that I would be in. And as I was writing it, it like took on a life of its own. And I showed it to my friends, and they were like, "Oh, this is good. You should make a movie." And I was like, I've never, like, made a movie before. I'd like to. Let me, like, adapt this into a short to see if I'm, like, any good at it at all. And so I made the short with Michael, and, it was, like, the most fulfilling thing I had ever done, and I was like, "Oh, obviously, this is what I have to do." And I wrote the movie so I could film it at my parents', you know, house on, like, very, very limited budget. So I said, "Okay, if that's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, I'm gonna get the best people I know." Like I said, there's so many talented people who are available. Let's just do it,
But I mean,
you know?
listen, like the process, right? You got to budget it, you got to schedule it, you got to raise the money, you got to start the LLC. I mean, all that stuff. Like, you just like said, okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I had some help from, like, my friends and family. Yeah, I just didn't wanna wait around. Nobody was gonna give me a shot, I was acting, and like Michael was saying, like, my auditions were I was Speed Racer,
Yeah.
and the audition was come in, and I was like they were like, "Say go." And I was like, "You just want me to say go, right?" And they were like, "Yeah." "Go." "Good, you got the job." I was
Yeah.
like,
Hey, well,
"Great."
you're
Like, there
you're
wasn't
you're
anything
lucky you
else to
got the
do.
job, right? I mean, that's how it is out there. It's like
Mm,
you're like, "Hey, dude, I'm on Speed Racer. I got the go job."
yeah. Right, I think I got the job because I was the only one who was like they were like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "It's just saying go." Like, I think that's why they cast me, like, 'cause I was just,
You
like,
ready
calling it
now?
as it was. Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, like, this is it, right?" I, like,
So
played it,
so
like, low
making the
key.
short, I mean, that was kind of like your sort of like film school, I guess, right? To figure out like just, I mean, even knowing what did you guys, what
Yeah.
camera did you use? Did you have a DP on that and this?
Yeah, my DP, he had a really nice camera, um, a Canon, what is it, Mach 3, something like really nice. But he's a DP. We went to theater school together. He was also an actor and came out and was like, "Oh, I wanna be a DP," and that's how I knew him. And so he really helped me, but yeah, the short film was kinda my film school, and so working with my brother on some of the stuff was kinda my film school. And this movie was kind of my film
Yeah,
school. That
yeah.
was another thing. I was like, "We're gonna spend however much money we spend on this movie, and it'll cost less than a year of film school based on how I, like, budgeted it
100%,
out." And then
man.
by the end of it, I've learned an unbelievable amount and have something to show for myself now, you know?
I mean, it's a beautiful piece. Like it's such kudos to you and hats off because that's what you hear from like a lot of the people who have made it. They're like, just go make something, just go do it. Like you guys got it so easy. You have the stuff, and it's like no one's stopping us anymore. I mean, it used to be you'd have to get a Panavision in the film, and and it was like it wasn't accessible. So that's awesome. That's awesome. How did the production go?
We got really lucky on, like, so many things. There were a couple hiccups, but, like, by and large, I think it went really well. Like, the way it was, like, when it needed to the sun needed to clear, the clouds needed to part, like, it did. We got, like, really lucky, on, like, so many it kinda felt like it was fated to go well. So I felt really blessed. There were a couple issues that were, like, small issues here and there that we, like, figured out. I mean, we got some stories, I'm sure Michael remembers some of them, but, there were a lot of things that coulda gone really wrong, and they didn't, you know?
It was a wonderful shoot, I thought, and just the vibe of just being invited into your parents' home and your family, and they've got a nice little spread of land out there, and we all stayed in this wonderful little town called Waverly, New York slash Waverly, Pennsylvania. Just this beautiful small town, and yeah, everybody that you had on the set, you know. Even if they were learning their jobs as we were going, everyone was gung ho and everyone had enthusiasm. And it's really interesting how just a little bit of that enthusiasm goes a long way, because you can be on sets with people who are professionals and been doing it a long time that have no enthusiasm and have a really boring day of creativity and working together. So something about there was a lot of just excitement. Like everybody was really excited every morning, and it was yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I found when we used to made a movie in Cincinnati and outside Cincinnati, and you walk up to people and you're like, "Hey, we're casting for a movie," and they're just like, "What? What? Oh, this is so cool!" As opposed to LA, they're like, "Well, my brother's a
Yeah.
lawyer, and I don't want to talk to you about it." And you're like, "I was just saying hi."
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
uh,
That was part of the reason I wanted to get out of LA to shoot this. It was so much more accessible and people were so much more open to it. Yeah.
and then so was there an auditioning process, or was it just sort of like did you guys do readings or rehearsals, or imagine having that location and having that sort of ability to all be together, almost like on a trip that Michael, were you able to like do a lot of rehearsal time, or how'd you approach it?
Well, what was cool was when we were staying in that town, we stayed in a house there, like the crew and a lot of the actors, and my roommate in that house was my brother in the film. So that was perfect. We got to spend a lot of time together and bond and, running lines, but also just like being around each other and like developing some sort of chemistry, which I think plays pretty well in the movie. So that was great. So yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if we did a lot of like actual rehearsal before we got to set with you, Tyler. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It's been a minute.
I think we did a couple table reads and there
Yeah,
was an
that's
audition
right.
process there was an audition process for Matt's character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and like that helped a little bit, but yeah, I think we did a a Zoom read and then we did a table read I think we did a table read in my house.
Do you find table reads effective? I always think they're so weird. Like they're just like I don't. I mean, I guess to hear your words, right? Or is that what it is to hear natural? Or I mean, Michael, what's your take on table reads?
I really like them as an actor, but yeah, I can get how maybe as a director or a writer, I feel like if you're a writer, it's more about trying to hear how other people say the words that seem so natural to you, and then maybe you realize like, oh, that no one is saying that line right. Maybe there's too many words in that line, you know. So I get that, but I like table reads a lot. But yeah, I see what you mean from that other perspective, though.
I mean, it's just sort of
Yeah, I
like
think
you'll never it's never that's it's almost like auditioning. You'll never be asked to do it this way again, where you're just
Yeah,
looking at a bunch of people on a couch or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you'll be dancing with somebody, and so it's like, why are we judging him based on something that he'll never do?
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And I feel like table reads are kind of the same way. But I've heard a lot of directors and writers say, I like to hear my words out loud for the first time, so it makes somewhat sense.
Yeah, I think it was helpful in the capacity that, like, when I heard them, I could change them, and then, like, you can tailor them a little bit if you're cast already, then you can say, "Oh, this sounds good in his voice, like, in his rhythm, in his intonation," and I did some of that after, like, I do remember doing some of that, like, a couple weeks before the script being like, "Oh, this line didn't sound good coming out of Michael's mouth, but this one sounded phenomenal. Let's cut this one and leave the one that sounds good because it does enough." And another thing that happens, when you're writing something, you have to write it or you end up writing it in a way that is understood in writing,
Mhm.
and usually that ends up involving, like, way more lines of dialogue than are necessary because you have to make it clear to a reader, but there are so much of the times, like and this ends up being more, like, even in the editing, but you can find some of it in the table read. You can find some of the stuff you can just cut, like, all it needs is a look, or all it needs is instead of being like, a big monologue, all he needs to say is, "I know," you know?
Well, that's what I noticed about, like, Michael's performance, man. You held space so good, and you just waited for it seems to be bubbling up before you'd even say something, and that tension between you guys was just like, you could just feel it, you know what I mean? And yeah, I agree, like, you don't have to say it, like, it's always what's not being said, you know? Yeah, I thought, Michael, that you guys had a great dynamic, and I thought that, dude, so hard to put up with people that are in that place, and I
yeah.
thought that, Matthew did a great job, really good job. Did he have a lot of experience with alcoholism or anything like that, or was that he just,
I
like
think so.
yeah.
I don't think so. Uh, yeah, I don't think so. We had a couple talks about it. I've got a lot of that in my family. Um, but yeah, I think he is just, yeah,
There were just so many little nuances that I was like, "These guys have to be in recovery because there were just so many, like, little nuances that you guys captured, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
How big of a crew was it did you guys have?
Like 6? Like, no, probably I think the total people on set was, like, no more than 12 or 15 at any given time, and that includes, like, actors and, like, everybody and some, like, just friends who were helping out. It was, like, me, DP, um, we had one person helping, she was, like, assistant camera and lighting, and then a production designer, and then the what am I thinking? The DP's wife was our assistant director, and then we had, like, a manager in Andrew. I think that was is am I who am I missing? I'm missing, like, a
No,
bunch
yeah,
of people
that,
who are,
and
like,
then
PAs.
we had our 2 PAs from the local college
Right,
who were fantastic.
right, and then a couple of my friends from college who came for a couple weeks and
Yeah,
PA'd as well.
I mean, I think it's the sweet spot, when making a
Yeah,
film because there's just all creativity, not a lot of pressure. You guys can, take the time it takes. You're not having to move camps and deal with, like a lot of times when I'm doing bigger budget stuff, I'm like, is this about making the movie or about you guys making your day? You know?
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I find that at this sort of world, you get to really, really be creative. Did you guys stick to the script, or would you do allow for a lot of improv, or was it pretty close to the script, or
You tell me, I can't remember, Michael.
I think you let us improvise. You know, we would try to get it, and then you would give us like kind of free ones. You know, and I think I'm not sure how many of those moments made it in, but there was definitely some improv. You know, that we did, but mostly stick to the script for certain.
And there were certain moments I remember that we edited in that were definitely improv. And sometimes when I was looking for, like, some of the more, like, human moments that, like, were kind of happening in montage almost, I was kinda like, "Alright, like, make each other laugh." We got the scene, now make each other laugh, you know? And they did a great job. They did a phenomenal job with it.
And did you feel that you had a pretty easy time directing just because of your actor background, or was it like tricky to jump into that position?
No, I think that was for me, like, the my that's where I think I am excel. I, like, love working with actors because I feel like I really empathize with their position, and, like, I love their process, and I love getting into that, and I think, um, it was phenomenal to be able to work with these 2, like, wonderful actors. I think if I have any the weak spot I have is actually on the more, like, camera-oriented stuff. I'm so focused on the acting sometimes that I think I could do a better job creating movement in the camera and the editing and the sound and everything.
And did you pick up on that when you were editing, as far as you're like, "Oh, I can see how that dance kinda needs to be?"
Yeah.
Yeah. What kinda stuff did you learn in that process, in the post process?
There were a lot of moments, I think, where I would cut to one thing and cut to another thing, or I would set up on the day that I had, like, 5 shots when I really only needed 1 and I could have spent more time, and then I ended up having cut to this, cut to this, cut to this, when it could have been, like, 1 fluid camera movement that would follow, and we would end up landing on that eventually, and it was way, more exciting and more dynamic and would hold character interest better. But I just had such a rudimentary like I said, I dove right into this, and I had such a rudimentary understanding of, like, the I guess you'd call it, like, cinematic vocabulary,
No, we
like, I
gotta get
didn't really
coverage. We
understand.
gotta get coverage. Like,
Right, and so
yeah,
I got coverage of
coverage.
things when I should have, like, understood, "Oh, we can follow this character with this camera, with this movement, and it'll be more dynamic and hold interest better."
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the only way to learn that is doing it, is experience, you know? And having the room to play and sort of like I don't know if it's a vision or it's just being able to, like, one, trust and then you have to match that, right? It can't just be like this it can't do one movement and then do another movement, so I mean, I didn't feel watching it, you know? I was never thrown by any of the technical stuff, so I would say you did a g I mean, for me, I thought you did a great job because I was never thrown off by any of the technical elements, you know?
Great.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I'll thank my editor for that.
And how did you come with him? Who was that?
He was another recommendation, I think actually through that same friend, Chase. Chase knew him and knew he was, looking for a job.
Okay.
Like, he was trying to get his first feature, get his teeth into something, like, longer, and he's been, like, such a huge ally. Shout Dylan Martin, incredible. He worked for me with, like, endless hours on the movie. We just, like, stayed up late. He was just excited to be, like, working on a project.
I mean, I can't believe he said he got paid. Like, people got paid? That's good. That's amazing. I've done so many of these and not even been getting paid.
Yeah. I think we did not I'll be honest, we did not pay people what they're worth because, like, an actor like Michael deserves to be a star, but it was a point where we were very deliberately we wanted to pay people something, you know?
I think it's so important, man. I think it's so important to
Yeah.
be able to do that. I mean, Michael, you know, you probably, like me, have done so many things where it's like, you know, you don't get paid and then it never sees the light of day. So
Yeah.
I think people take it if they are getting paid, they do show up. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, if you pay them a good amount, they're gonna show up and they're gonna show up prepared, hopefully.
Yeah, and, and it's also something like, okay, there's the pay, and then there's also the experience, and I don't mean, like, putting the, notches in your belt type experience. I mean, like, being out able to go into the country, this beautiful country, and experience this small town, when we're not shooting, and just experience this, life, and that is all stuff that an actor and artist takes with them throughout the rest of their life, and like, I will never forget Waverly, New York slash Waverly, Pennsylvania, and the 3 weeks that we had shooting there. Like it was just beautiful, and yeah, definitely probably wouldn't have done it if I wouldn't have got been able to make rent when I came back. But like, yeah, I got paid in a lot more than money.
No, it's so true because like I remember my time in, let's say, Wilmington. I remember my time in Savannah. I remember my time, you know, and it's like I
Yeah.
remember getting, and I always tell people, they say, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "We're kind of carnival workers. We kind of just go to these little towns and we set up things and we do the little magic trick and then we leave." And it's my favorite part is getting to see my friends again and getting to make stuff, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's what I
I
was
can't wait to begin.
yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like that we lose sight of that, right? We lose sight of the experience of creating together, and we get so focused on gotta get a career, gotta make money, and you do, and I totally get it, but it like Michael, to get the opportunity to sink your teeth into such great material, you might have waited a lifetime if you're waiting to like, get the rate that you would normally get on doing a commercial or a studio movie.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, to get to tell a real story and have like a big crucial part in it, that is so rare. That is so rare that that comes across. So and to, shoot something, for like 3 weeks to a month like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Like and the more stuff that I do, whether it's, theater or film or commercials and stuff like that, like that the process of the shoot, especially a long one like that, and you have a lead role, that is the thing that you really take with you.
Yeah.
Like that was, some of the best weeks of my life.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, this is for the next 3 weeks. I'm an actor. Like, man,
That's the goal, right? That's the dream. Is like I just want to be
yeah,
acting.
yeah.
Yeah. And so where are you guys now and how's that going as far as trying to get the film out? Like how did the festival go in New York or how's that whole game going and trying to find a distributor and all that stuff? Because I know that's like a whole other difficult world that we always have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, the festival, it's such a weird push and pull, and this is my, like, first, like, real experience with it. The festival went, like, I think really well, um, and we've got a couple contacts about, like, from distributors, so we're talking that over, but nothing's, like, set yet. But that in and of itself, I'm, like, over the moon because, to be able to get someone interested in the movie and interested in distributing it is, like, it feels too good to be true in some ways. And then in the festival circuit, it's been really, like, weird because we've gone out to, like, a bunch of festivals, and, like, some festivals are, like, very, like, obviously the big ones or whatever, but they're, like, almost impossible to get into. It's literally easier to get into, Yale than it is to get into,
No, I mean,
Sundance.
they should just take the name independent off of those film festivals. Like, it's not
It
independence anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just all
yeah,
big name studio stuff, and
right.
and
Yeah,
it becomes a marketing thing, right? It's like it becomes just
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it makes total sense. I mean, we were talking to the sales agents about, like, I was at this, what do I wanna say, panel with some sales agents who, like, sell the movie to distributors and sell movies. Not our movie. We don't have a sales agent, so that's why I mean, feel even more blessed that we have, distributors talking to us. Um, but they said, "Oh, yeah, if you work with our sales company, we have a relationship with the programmers at these big festivals, and if you pay us our rate of $30,000, then we'll put it to the programmers, and you have a chance to get into these." But it makes sense because if you have a movie that you spent $5,000,000 on and you have an ad for it, what's the first thing they put on the ad? Sundance.
Mhm.
So it makes your movie look reputable, which makes it more likely for people to watch it. So a $30,000 to get your movie into Sundance is just marketing fees, But for a movie like us, like a truly independent movie, I mean, that's like half of our entire budget. That's our entire post-production budget, like, or more, and probably more than our entire post-production budget. Like, let alone like marketing. Like, I don't have money for marketing. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yep.
don't even have connection. So like, and in that regard, like the festival circuit's been really weird because we got into such a great festival in Dances with Films, but then we've gotten not into some other festivals who are actually like very small in comparison. So it's really like such a like a
I'm going through it right now.
mind.
Yeah, I'm going through it now with a film that has, big attachments and it's a documentary, but it has, some pretty big names that are working with us on it, and it's the same thing. And I've been privy to that backroom politics before, and that's where I kind of was like, oh, this isn't on based on the film. It's based on one, I guess I don't know the finances, and then also based on the festival wanting to bring people in. And so
Yeah,
it's almost like they know they have to have this top tier to get people to come in, you know?
Definitely.
It
Definitely.
wasn't that way, dude. It used to be like it used to be all independent
Well,
films.
it's tough because, like, the oh my gosh, we lost Michael. It's tough because this you know how we are saying earlier, it's so much easier now, you have all the tools to make a movie? The problem is now everybody can do that, and there are so many movies.
Yep,
I know, when we Sundance was saying they got, like, 17,000
yep,
submissions.
yep.
If you do the math, like, if only 1% of those movies are good, it's still, like, what, like, 160 movies? No, it's 1,700 movies? 1,700 movies. So if 1% of the 1% are good, it's still 170 films, and they only program 135. So the 1% of the 1% can get in, and then you consider, like, the deals you're talking about. There's just not even, like, really room for, like, movies like us.
Yeah, yeah.
They have so much to consider, and they have all these deals, and then by the time they're done with their deals, there's like 4 spots left for a movie like us. You just have to be so it's not even a matter of goodness, it's a matter of, like you said, what's gonna draw the most people in, and also there's so much content being created that consumers also don't wanna take risks on movies. We all know the feeling, we're on Netflix, and you go on Netflix or Hulu, and you're scrolling, and you're scrolling, and you're scrolling, and then it just becomes like hogwash, so you end up watching The Office 5 more
Yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's hard for indie movies to draw people to a festival because everybody's just like, "Oh, it's just more of the same stuff,"
I also feel
and
like
there's not.
yeah, and I also feel like what's happening in culture and the hot topics, like, at that moment, like, those films sometimes get a pass because they're talking about what's going on in the zeitgeist or something, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, you hope that with all the like you said, everybody the creativity and story and I believe that we're getting back to that world, and one of the reasons we do this podcast is to, like, be able to showcase, films like what you guys did and give it at least somewhat of a platform so people can maybe discover it and give you guys sort of a chance to talk about your journey, and so but I feel like, just in your guys' relationship, right? Like, Michael's a fan probably of your writing, of you. You guys will grow and probably make other films together because you think he's an amazing actor that hopefully the people that see Moonwater will start to start to follow you and you'll build your own audience and then you don't need a sales agent with $30,000 to send brown bag money to Sundance.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the plan. I hope we just gotta find I do feel like we're in a place where, especially considering, like, some of the way the industry has been lately, we're in a moment where I feel like we're about to discover that. Like, people just need that one platform that they go to visit those people. Even if filmmakers just start posting stuff on YouTube and people realize, like, "Oh, I can interact with a filmmaker on YouTube." Although it doesn't always have the prestige, but people are starting to come around to ideas like that. And if there was just, like, a platform where it was, like, specifically for filmmaker, I feel like that would be something that could potentially, like, grow, but the space is just so crowded right now that we just have to figure it out as, consumers and as an industry.
I mean, like, my kids will probably not pay for any of it, right? They're so used to YouTube and getting all their content for free. I don't see them going to Netflix. So I believe that it's going to be this new generation of people that are like they just don't understand like why would I pay for content, you know? And so it's us to create stuff to get that audience, right? I mean, what are your cuz it is a crazy time. Like it is
Mhm.
I don't know anyone knows where this is going, you know? What are your guys' thoughts about what the where we're going in the industry?
I don't know, man.
That's the perfect sentiment.
Yeah, I'm with him.
Yeah, and then he just goes black. He's like, "I don't know, man." He just hangs up the phone.
Dude, well, first off, I'm a substitute teacher, so I'm getting calls right now for work tomorrow, and I'm trying. That's why I
Mhm.
keep popping off. But um, uh, yeah, all I know is I've done a couple of in this kind of period that we've been at, the strikes and all that. I've done a couple casting workshops with casting directors out here in LA. A friend of mine kind of like runs this email thread where she lets you know, and I've done like two or three of them in the last like 6 months, and like when you get in there and you're all excited and you're ready to do your scene and you sent in the thing and you got your reader and you're super stoked, and then literally the casting director, they come on and all they do for the first 30 minutes of like Q&A is just like talk about how there's no work. That's what I've experienced several times. So I don't know. It seems kind of bleak, to be honest, but I think that's all the more reason why we should be making our own work and getting back, whether that be.
We lost him for a second. But that's my point. Like you guys you're doing it, right? And it's like I can say firsthand because I talk to all my friends that do shows and work for, WB and all. They're not working, And so like this becomes the way, I hope, right? Is that you just take it into your hands and use the new tools that are coming, the AI tools, and use everything to be able to create content efficiently, fast, and then creativity hopefully wins.
I hope so. I'm like that was gonna be what I was gonna say. Like you say, where's the industry going? I'm trying my best not to worry about it and just like make the thing. They say make what you want to see, and hopefully other people want to see it. And that's really what I'm gonna try to block out the other stuff and focus on. And like I was saying earlier to that same point, we were saying there's a lot of people who work on WB or this or that, and their work's not there right now. And a lot of people look at that as like pretty bleak and pretty desperate, but you can reframe it and say like there are so many people now who you couldn't work with before, and they're available. Like now's your chance. Like you have these incredibly talented people. Now's your chance to work with them.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, now you've got all these great people with these amazing resumes and skills, and they're available and hopefully available at the price point that you can afford. Was that your first time doing like a capital raise for anything for this movie? Like, was that the first time you've
Yeah.
raised funding?
Yeah. Yeah, for, like, anything, and it was pretty small, and we just mostly had friends and family. I think if I'm gonna try to do the next one, intimidated about that, but that's, everybody's intimidation and every producer's, biggest nightmare, right?
It's
The
it's
the biggest
it's
hurdle.
yeah, it's one of the hardest parts to try to get, someone to let us go play for us to go play make believe,
Yeah.
And it's stressful and it's hard and then it weighs on me too to like for us to try to do the best we can in return and so yeah, it's all that's what we're saying earlier. It's all so fucking hard, you know?
Yeah.
And
It is.
and you guys
Yeah.
did it, And that's amazing. And you got something out into the world. You gave birth to this thing and it's like and it's good and so I mean, congratulations.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of labor, and I really do, like you said, when you're doing the capital raise, you really wanna do your best to do it by everybody, but and the thing is when you make a movie with people, you gotta look at the stats and tell them straight up, like 95% of all movies made don't make their money back, and only 2% of movies make 90% of the profits, and we're trying to live in that 3% between, 95 and 98, because these indie movies, that's your hope is to make, like, a little bit of money. It's not gonna, like, blow up, especially in the modern climate. And it seems more and more because it's such a crowded landscape that we're relying more and more on those 2% of movies to make $1 billion,
Mhm.
you know? And then you're just hoping some star comes along and says, "Yeah, I'll
It's not
you
that
make my big movie and I wanna make this little movie, so throw us some cash."
it's not that way anymore, man. Like, it doesn't matter
Right.
how many stars you have. It doesn't equal and I have a lot of firsthand experience with this that it doesn't equal that you're gonna get a return. And so but
Mhm.
they're still charging the prices, right? That and, God bless them. That's what they're worth. They've been able to,
Yeah.
they're valued at that, and that's what they can get, but the formula doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work anymore, and so we have to find a new formula, and I think keeping it indie and 12 people to your set and, being able to do a lot of the work, it gives you a much better chance of just being able to survive in this. So, I'm hopeful, man, because that's what we used to do. We used to always make independent films, and we just did it because we wanted to make stuff. And we were too dumb to not. We just went out and did it. So I love this. I love this spirit, man. I love this playing field that you guys are in.
Yeah, I hope I stay dumb and I keep doing it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And it takes a certain level of, like, hopeless naivete, you know, but I'm gonna keep doing it. It's like I'm the addict in and of itself.
There's something for just, the telling stories. Like there's value in that, and I think we've lost the sight of that. And I've had this conversation with some of my friends that make some prolific films, and it's like, that used to be the value, was the telling of a great story, and not so much, making a great film. Like I felt watching your film, dude. I mean, I felt sick to my stomach because I've been through that, and it was like it reminded me of why I'm sober. It reminded me to stay fucking sober. Uh,
Yeah.
and so like that matters, man. That's going to stick with me, Like his
Yeah.
fucking I mean, I remember waking up like that. You know what I mean? And so like it was just a great reminder to watch his story and watch your guys', and Michael, you being so affected, by your brother, and just like that hopelessness of just like, dude, we've tried everything. Like, get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here, yeah.
Yeah. It sparked a conversation with my daughter about something about, and so like I think that there's great power in that.
You know, I can't say thank you, like, enough. Like I've said, I this is, like, my line, but I because I am speechless when someone says the movie, like, spoke to them in a way. Like, as artists, like you said, there's value in telling of that story, and, like, all you wanna do is reach out to someone else and, like, have that thing that touched you touch them, and so I'm just really appreciative that the movie, like, spoke to you in that way.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You guys did a great job.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I just, I'm always so grateful when someone it's hard to get people to even, like, watch it, you know? So when someone watches it and it, like, means something to them, it, like, means the world to me.
I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, because it ain't for the money, that's for sure. We're doing it because we want to give a place for, these films to at least have the chance to get discovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I think we're at the hour, which was awesome. It went quick.
Check out Moonwater.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'll say, if you want updates on the movie, you can my wife has a social media following that's pretty big, at Natalie Gold. You can follow her, and she'll give us updates. That's probably the best place
Okay.
to find things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think you have an idea of it? Is there a plan if it doesn't sell that you're going to get it out, or?
Yeah, that's kinda why I mentioned that. If it doesn't get, like, distributed, I really I'm not quite sure what the angle would be, but there's a good chance that we put it on her, YouTube channel, or use a YouTube, like, platform her YouTube platform to try to boost that, thing, 'cause, she's got a decent, like, audience, and I'd really just love to get eyeballs on it, and if we can get eyeballs on it, that would probably be better than, like, putting it on I'd rather have, like, 20,000 people watch the movie than, like, 200 people, you know, pay for it on Amazon Prime,
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
I think there's something in that, right? In that world that you're talking about a new model where it's like either Patreon or something where people like can donate, or you know what I mean, where people can find your movie, and then hopefully people that understand how what you guys accomplished, and then support it, and I think that there's somewhere in there, I think, is the new model.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and her fandom has already, like, helped support the movie. They came out to the screening, and, like, we did, like, some of the crowdfunding, like, and it was just, like, a little bit, but if we could get that ball rolling more is kind of the concept, then maybe it would snowball, and they could see, like, because she's got, like, a movie-based YouTube channel, and so it adds authenticity, and then we make a movie together, and then they say, "Oh, this is real." It's not just like some YouTuber says, "Ooh, I wanna make a movie." Like, they made a real movie, and it
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
We wanna support the next one. I think there is a model in there. That's why if it's not directly distributed, I'm like, I think that's actually a viable option, even though it might not be as prestigious, but, we're living in a real world here, you know?
Well, no, and it allows for some of the past that some of the people have done in podcasting, where it's like there's no one to answer to. It's just them, you know?
Yeah.
Which is I think even more freeing because I can speak from example. The higher you get in the chain, and the more money they're spending, and the more studios and more the people are involved, the less fun it gets. Like
Yeah.
the less creative, less fun, the more pressure, and it's just like you find yourself doing stuff, and you're like, this. I don't know why this isn't fun. This is like I'm having a nervous breakdown. You know, it's too much
Yeah.
stress. You know.
Yeah.
So, well, great job, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
That's great to hear,
Thanks so
John.
much.
Thanks,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks. It's been great talking to you. Thanks for having us on. It was a real
Awesome.
pleasure.